Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Totally Indian Football Show. A disclaimer in this to start. We are doing this, as you know, the last two episodes have been from Bangalore, and I'm continuing to be in the city and bringing you some exclusive stories out of the city as well. So we are here, doing this episode from a WeWork space. So you may hear some chatter and some noise around, but I hope that the editor has done a good job, which he always does, to make sure that you're listening to a great output of our show. Now, let me welcome the guest. Most of us know him as one of the team members or the one behind this performance analysis place called Sports KPI. And it's not a new thing that for any of us in the sporting sector, especially in Indian football. So I have the founder and CEO, Naveen. I would not want to take the second name, I don't want to take it wrong, but I still try Naveen Ningaiah. Ningaiah, right. Naveen, thank you so much for joining me and for all the hassle that you went through to get this episode done. Really appreciate that. And finally, we get to do this after a lot of, I think, chats over WhatsApp, and finally we are here. So yeah, let's get started. Right, and it's been 8+ years. But if you can also tell us how many years has it exactly been? One is that. Second, I don't want to take you back all the way from the start, because I'm sure you've done many shows, many interviews, but how has your experience been so far? And when you started off, I'm sure there wasn't much a chatter about analysis, about data, and I think it's still a new thing we consider in Indian football, at least. So if you can take us through the graph and your personal journey and experience through it.
Thanks, Siju, for getting me in, and thanks for you to come all the way out here and try to sneak in your time to get through this particular place as well. Yeah, it was awesome to in order to interact with you. I think we conversed before on WhatsApp, and then good to meet you in person in SAF Cup as well. Okay, so getting back to Sports KPI, it's been quite a journey because I think as a company was incorporated the late with the end of 2015. But prior to that, I started my career working with Bengaluru FC as an maybe an intern volunteer in the analytical department over there. So that's the first time when Ashley Westwood and Pradyum Reddy, when 2013, when BFC became a champion, the first year of their I League, is when I got a chance to understand and work with them. So Ashley brought in a lot of systems and softwares in picture to start looking at how to analyze a game, what happens in a pre-game, what to do in a post-game. So I has to be part of those meetings. So that was more like an volunteer internship kind of a work, which I was doing along with my corporate IT background, and that helped me to start something to understand the market, maybe to understand how does it typically run, right? Then went on to work with Mumbai City FC at the first year of ISL as an analyst over there. Took a sabbatical from my corporate job and then did that over there. And then we worked with FC Goa, Northeast. And it's been quite a good journey to understand the football ecosystem, work with great coaches, Indian and foreign coaches out there, and also a lot of players. So what I really believe is once you start working with them, you build up a good relationship with those people, right? So that's what I really value being in the sports industry so far, and I really enjoy always connecting to the fan, coaches, players, understanding the challenges and what really brings up for them in order, and also how we can help them in order to make their job or their life much easier on the ground and off the ground.
That was a great, intro to in terms of how your scale kind of when graph looks like. But circling back to the question of how do you think has it changed over the period with regards to data and numbers? Today we all look at, and as you mentioned, for you to interact with coaches and players, everyone is taking that leap of saying, okay, we need to understand data, we need to understand the science part of the sport to probably get better on the pitch. So if you can, from the time that you started personally and then with Sports KPI, how has it grown or evolved, or are we there yet?
See, we have grown. Definitely, yes. I mean, a lot of growth has taken place. I think my journey started off in the Indian football is when even BFC was not even formed. It was HAL. The first time when I was like, I want to watch a game of football was HAL was playing from Bangalore and I League team. And then I was to go and watch those games out there. And I also remember time when if you want to collect the data of an I League match, so there's nothing available except for the score lines. And we used to go and read goal.com and find out who played minutes, who was a goal scorer, who passed the ball so that he became assist over there. So that is what we used to start collecting that information. But if you see now, at least maybe there are instats or other product which actually has some data points over there, and that has been much more easy and accessible as well. Okay, a lot of games are being streamed, or also it has been live on TV also. So it helps a lot of analysts or the data companies like us also to collect a lot of numbers out there. Okay, and coming back to where that has been used, so I think data has been there. So obviously it's how you read the data, how you make insights of the data, and what has been useful at that point of time. So there are coaches who are quite old school. There are coaches who are actually trying to adapt the new set of things as well. But from a point of like a scouting to filter out the players and trying to find out the best of the players out there, so those the data has actually gone inroads in order to make sure that can happen. But I'm sure like there's a lot more things which can be done in future. But I see a great future. Another factor is a lot of young coaches are coming into their actual into the game. There are a lot of C license, pro license, A license coaches who now are able to understand this kind of information and able to take this forward, right? So that is something which is very optimistic for us to say that okay, the new young coaches are able to understand these concepts and able to take that into the next level over there.
You mentioned that you started off with BFC, right? And I mean, the start that they've had in the first season itself was, I think, a lot of reasons because of the way they flourished, even till today, right? So when you circle back to Ashley Westwood and Pradyum, two great minds over there, I mean, both of them of which we got to know after the first season. Today, now we look back and say, okay, how they are really great and they have that in-depth knowledge. So working closely with them and you starting out into this field, how was that experience like, and what is it that you gained even from their knowledge to say that okay, this is what they need and this is how I need to kind of shape around what the coach's needs are and what the players needs are? Because sometimes you can also be overwhelmed that okay, I have so much data, I have so much number, let's work around this and let's impress people. But then if it's not catered to the needs of the people that you are actually going to present it to, it would be a lot of waste of effort you put into. So what was that probably few things that you learned saying, okay, this is how I need to approach and this is how I not need to go about it?
Yeah, so working with Ashley, so that's a point when I was coming from a corporate background, like working in a corporate industry. So didn't really know what really happens on the ground, what is expectation, what is the structure and everything. So Ashley was the one who was most of a like a disciplined coach, I would say. He was the one who got in the software which has been needed. So the one he was using in England, and how to use that particular software out there. And Pradyum had a lot of information about the Indian players. So he himself had a lot of data points, which is to churn out or maybe collect information to, in order to bring that particular thing. What I understood was, how do you prepare for a game before, prior to the match? Let's say you do a pre-match analysis, right? So typically, what is that you're going to communicate upon? How much you're going to work on your set pieces? I think if you see in the first year BFC, we're very good in set pieces, very unique set pieces they've been able to work upon. So they have to communicate that over a video sessions as well. I remember even in the halftime, that was the first time I was able to go in the halftime and understand what the coach really talks to the players. And we did show some videos out there. It was a very, I think, right now, I think it's a much more structured, better way. It's done much more better way. But that's just something which I kind of learned around that. Second is also in terms of what happens in the post match game, whether you won the game. You remember there's a player called Toy Singh, is to be from Northeast. And the way, the Ashley to communicate the message which he wants to pursue, to communicate to the players, is that really, brought it to me to understand how the structure of that analysis comes into picture. There are a few data points which they were interested upon, and but however, we also wanted to understand more on the video perspective which has to be given out over there. And Pradyum is a class apart. I mean, he understands the data, how to make use of it, how to take out insight out of that particular information, even from signing players as well. Okay, so there were a couple of projects we did with Pradyum even after BFC days as well. But just to understand his brain out, understand how the way he thinks through what information comes in. I think I still make use of that learnings and ideas from there in order to make sure that okay, we can service to other clients also better.
And just like you mentioned, like, the understanding of the first half and the post match and stuff, I just wanted to probably be a bit curious enough to. A game has happened. The first half, there's a team talk happening. While the first half was happening, you were doing your job, right?
Yeah.
Recording the video and also understanding. take me through the process of what actually do you do while the game is on, apart from recording? Because if there something that you also have to present in the first after that at the halftime, is that a demand from the coach so that the coach can probably back up with data of why is he saying someone, to a player, if he wants some more improvement or what needs to be changed? So how do you then maneuver, because you don't have much time? One is you are watching the game, and then how fast is should your output be in that, till the team halftime talk?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I love that part. So it varies from coach to coach. Okay, I mean, typically, what I understood or what I've experienced working in multiple teams out there is you got like it's a 20 minutes break, right? So typically, the first 10 minutes goes through when the player comes in and he kind of takes some rest, have some water. His heart rate has to be, like come back to the as a normal, and also the physio works on that particular thing. And then the next 10 minutes is what the coach wants to update, and that specific moment has to be very much like a point to point basis. Okay, are we bringing in substitution? How are we playing? What is the opponent is doing it, or what is that we're supposed to change right now? Like, for the players it has to be very specific for them to say 1 2 3 points, and then okay, we are going into that game, right? So in that 10 minutes when the team is trying to take a break or take a physio is working on the players and everything, that is when so while we are watching the game, a person will be recording, or nowadays we what we call it as real time analysis. What we do, we understand and we collect some few aspects of the games. Okay, where the attacks coming from? Okay, what do they do in the set pieces? Okay, are there more shots coming from the right hand side or left hand side of it? Okay, one of the very important factor which I really understood from one of the Australian coach who actually was, I mean, he was there for a small period of time with BFC at that point of time. He currently works with Perth Glory in Australia. What he taught me over there is something called as a goalkeeper distribution. Okay, so he says that the first mode of attack for any goalkeeper is to look at his track his distribution. Okay, and we should do pretty much everything on pen and paper way back at that point of time. So we started to make the arrows where the goalkeeper is distributing. Okay, either he plays from the back. If you see Gurpreet now, he plays from the back and the builder from there, or he typically shoots a ball somewhere to the half line, maybe to the left or right hand side of it. So whom is it targeting, and how many times has it done right or done left? So it's to have a paper with a colorful pen. If it's a green, it means okay, it's a good pass. Then red, so that is to tell us that okay, this is where the first mode of their attack is. Okay, then what happens, right? So these are the information which we used to pick up. And I remember the current analyst who was currently with BFC way back, so we started working, like, so he became a full time and I was more of an intern and working with them. So we used to go together in the halftime, give those few inputs maybe to Pradyum as an assistant coach, and he can communicate that well better to Ashley, as a coach over there. And the coach is to ask us, is to record the game and is to note down at what moment any specific thing happened, right? Maybe a goal was scored, or there was a shot being taken, or the offside was not given, or something of that sort. And Ashley used to ask us to, like, why don't you just play that a specific video? So that is when Ashley asked us to showcase that particular video and explain to that player. But that particular 10 minutes is very 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 tight, wherein I don't know, all coaches would love to showcase a video and everything, but most of the communication typically happens at that point of time. So that is something is what I've understood in the halftime and this thing. But whatever you try to gauge from the game or analyze from the game, how you can communicate that to the coach is very important, because the coach himself has been standing on the dugout for like those 45 minutes. He has a lot of information on his head, what he has observed. The assistant coach would have a lot of information on his head to put across over there, and you can't go ahead and then put all those information. So you have to either filter out that what is more important, and then keep that very specific for the coach for him to focus upon if he wants to communicate that to the players or not.
So now coming to the point of continuing to, sticking to this particular point that we're talking about, does the coach mention it to you? Do you have a conversation before a game where he asks you to say, no, this is where you need to focus on. This is where I actually need your help in. And maybe in the first half, this is where you can focus and tell me and, get back to me so that I can present that in the halftime. Does that work? Or what's the conversation like with a coach before a match day?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, not every coach would love to have your feedback, in the halftime, okay, because a lot of things going on. And what I would say from my experience is how you build relationship with the coach is very important. You can't be like just working for a couple of months and you feel that, you have all the information to give. Everyone is different. Every coach has his own philosophy of working. So that relationship is very important. As you work for a longer period of time, you typically understand what's expectation, when should I be able to speak to him, when should I not be able to speak to him, should I be part of the meetings or not. So those things will come into picture. And typically, yes, so even if you have any queries and understanding, you ask the coach, what exactly you're looking for, is there something I can work upon. I think one of the time I think I asked Ashley was, where he wants to look at whether which side of the attacks are coming from. Okay, or are we retaining a second ball once the goalkeeper done a distribution? Are we winning the second balls or not? So the key two or three things which they're very specific, because that's what can be done in the real time when the game is happening. There are so many things happening around, and that's what we communicate. But post the game gets finished, then there are a lot more data points and KPIs which we work upon, and which can be presented the next day as a analysis session with the coaches out there. Sometimes if you're not clear that okay what exactly the coach would expect you for doing it, so then you can actually either ask him, or you can showcase some of the work you have done in order to say this is what coach, this is what I can provide you, and would you be interested on this thing. So maybe in that case you would come and filter out that particular information coming out for that particular thing. Because for me, I also worked with Zico, with the Brazilian legend, in the second season of ISL. We went to become we lost in the finals, we become runners up out there. So he has a very different kind of an as a coach from Ashley, right? So he was more keen on I think he was a great man management or people management person. I mean, he understood the players very well. He gave them a lot of freedom, and that's why I think the success for the second season of ISL is goes the way he was able to keep the players together. Maybe his communication was not a great. He used to have a translator out there, but still he didn't push too much on the data and numbers, but he knew what to be communicated before a game and after the game. And I really enjoyed that working with him also to understand different aspect of a coach over there. But typically, to answer your question, halftime, either you know exactly what the coach will request for. Even if you're not sure, please like speak to the coach and then understand. If not, if there's a coach who's from an international or maybe a foreign coach, and try to build up to understand from assistant coach what exactly you want to communicate. So if as an analyst we might speak to in numbers or this thing, maybe the assistant coach can communicate that into a footballing language, which the head coach can understand that part.
Right. Now, I think I've asked this to another guest that we had, Meet Mandavia, who's also an analyst, where I've asked him about, him when he interacts with players, how informative and how educative are they with regards to these? Because I'm sure players these days want to know how are they performing, want to know the numbers and data and all of that, right? To even rate their performance and fitness levels. So, have you, when you closely work with players, when you take these data with them, how keen are they to know, one, and second, how much do they understand, or how much are they interested to understand this aspect of the game as well?
Yeah, this is a very good question as well. So I worked with many players, and still I kind of have a good relationship with them, even after non. I mean, way back when I used to work, some of them have also been retired out there. So I would not say all players are very much keen. Okay, there are players whom you have to choose, or maybe who gives you some kind of an kind of an gesture, an idea that okay, this guy might be interested upon. Then speak to them and build a relationship with that particular person. Typically, it used to be like I used to work a lot with goalkeeper coaches, a lot of goalkeepers, and as to understand and show them that prior to the game. Okay, so it's like let's say the strikers taking the ball, or we're going to play against an opponent. Where does it typically take shots from? How has it taken it? What kind of goals the other team have scored upon? So we should do those kind of insights into that information. Second, also in terms of their distribution of the passes, which is to do majorly because whether it's player or a coach, what I understand is it's 70% is around video. Okay, data is something which will help you to filter out the information in order to show what video I need to showcase to them. Okay, you might go and say that okay, you got 70% distribution, or you got stoppage percent of 60%, 80, whatever it is. But the thing is, if you can show a video to them, they try to understand where exactly that particular information is. I would like to also name, I would not like to name the person, but it used to happen with one of the players. Just the game is to get over, maybe around 10:30 at night. We used to reach hotel at 11:30, and this guy used to tell me, but Naveen, whatever time it happens, I want to watch my game. This was after the post game. And even if it's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, you come, wake me up, give me that video, which I want to watch. Because we used to render it or, edit some few things and provide him. And this guy wants to watch the entire video out there. Even while trying to fly, while traveling, he used to make me sit next to him and then he wants to watch the video on my laptop. So he was such in detail of that particular person. So I picked up guys who are actually was very keen. There are people who might not be that very keen. So we didn't push so much over there. And what really happens is when you get to confidence of one player or one senior player over there, he kind of communicates that to other people also. So that helps us to do it. And it's also the case not in football, when we work in kabaddi as well, a lot of players whom we work with. But yes, not everyone, but there are few people whom we want to choose and understand the game also from their perspective. Okay, because analyst will always think from his point of view, from data, video, but then the player will tell you why it was done in that particular way. What was the context for doing that particular job? So that becomes very, very important for us to do it.
Now, we also see a lot of things changing in football in generally. I mean, we call the modern football, and there are a lot of the coaching staff also gets bigger with a lot of additions to help the coach get the team better, right? So, one of the aspect that we also slowly seeing in Indian football is the strength and conditioning coach, right? Now, even there, I'm sure data really helps them, right? So it's not just the coach or the assistant coach, but at the same, these guys who are making sure the fitness levels are good and their performance rates are good. I think it's key also that they get to know how much are they pushing or how much they aren't pushing. So when someone like in the space, like I mean, we're in Bangalore and we've had Chelsea on the show who really closely works with players. So as someone like a strength and conditioning coach, then how does your relation with that particular person be, and what are their demands and what are their needs, and how do you cater to that?
Yeah. So it's all, as I said, it's a support staff, right? So we are all support to the head coach or the team so that we can support them and make them to perform better. So some of the key aspect, one is obviously strength and conditioning coach. Other aspect is a physio, all right? So the difference, what I've heard from people or maybe from the SNC coaches, that SNC is someone who's going to keep the player fresh for the season. So make sure that they don't get injured. Physio is the one responsibility for him to bring back from the injury and give the player to the coach so that they can play again better. That's a two big difference which comes in the picture. SNC has become very important in the aspect of understanding the game or on this thing. Even from the days of Ashley Westwood at BFC, a lot of emphasis was given on SNC. A lot of international SNC coach had come down here. Then there was to implement a lot more technology also into picture. Another key technology right now, I think what people use in ISL also is the GPS devices. Okay, typically to understand what we call it as a load on a player. So more or maybe higher the constants or the load keeps increasing, it leads to an injury, and that's when the player can't get to play. And so that's something which you want to avoid. So how much is a player taking the load, right? There could be a player of 21 years old, or there could be a player at 35 years old or 33 years old. The training works very differently for them because the body has to take a different type of a load over there. So the data comes in where when you use those devices to get what you call as the external load information is what you can understand from that particular information. So most of the analysts, even in ISL team right now, to extract the data from the GPS device is done by the analyst. To interpret that data is done by the SNC coach, and based on which they will start putting their training sessions and everything. So typically that's where we interact a lot more with SNC coach to what exactly is the load of a player and everything. A lot more work to be done from a scientific way of doing it. Okay, there are a lot of SNC good coaches who are actually doing that, but understanding the data of a fitness of a player is very, very important out there. And the same thing also goes with a physiotherapist also. Say, how did the injury happen? Sometimes it is because of a clash of two particular player, because of the knee got twisted out there. So they also come and ask us the videos to identify what really happened. Then the severity of that injury can be addressed by watching that particular video as well. So SNC also getting more data oriented as well, and to understand that how can I reduce the injury and how do I keep my players fit for a longer period of time.
Now, I think that's a lot of talk about data analysis and performance driven stuff, right? Let's come to the point, because you guys are no more just doing analysis and talking about data. You guys are getting into broadcast, sports content, and also I think something that really attracts me is the sports education courses, which you're also training upcoming talent who want to work in this field and also educate them. I think sharing knowledge always kind of catches people's eye because you know it and then you want to share. But before, I think that could probably, I would say, would probably come naturally to you with regards to teaching the younger crowd or the potential upcoming people, because there is a demand and you need to cater to that. But how did you want to, or what made you get into broadcasting? And because since then you have taken multiple projects and there are multiple projects in the bank as well, so if you can take us through how this happened, and was it like a decision taken by collectively by the team, or something again a demand and then you wanted to cater to that?
I think, Siju, my point of view has always been demand. Okay, so I mean, I understood what's been there. I mean, even if you say analysis, we worked with BFC, understood what they were doing it. I think not many clubs at that point of time even knew how it was to be done. Understood that why it can't be catered to all other teams out there as a service kind of a model. Then we tried pitching into multiple people, and then we started doing some business out there. Second, again, this brings up from the broadcasting point of view, right? So it's a very interesting aspect when, I'll give a small story around it. Actually, this was something which we are doing for Karnataka. KSF has got a very nice youth league system, okay, under 17, under 14 play. I mean, credit to the association, the way they conduct it and everything. So there was a time where I think pre-COVID, I think close to a COVID point of time, so where we said we want to record those games and we want to analyze or collect some data points. Who's a young player coming up? Because that's where we thought, okay, the next level of footballers will come from that particular thing as well. So at that point of time, we just knew how to record a game. Okay, and as an analyst, I've been recording a game with a single camera to get a view of a kind of a wide angle view to understand all the players. So we knew that. But how exactly a broadcasting happens is something which was out of our understanding. We tried ourselves to come and connect that to the system and do all the stuff, which was never our kind of a game. So later on, at least, but there was a need for any association to at least broadcast their games live. Obviously, in post-COVID or during COVID, a lot of fans would not come to the stadium and they would like to watch that games out there. It so happened that one of the leagues in Karnataka was getting streamed, and I kind of, watching the game, got in touch with a few vendors who were actually able to do it. We're doing in Karnataka. Sat with them, understood what exactly really comes in. Then I said, why don't we do it together? I'll get some of the broadcasting project and see how it can happen. So the very first broadcasting, I'm very happy to say that it was a women's nationals, which happened in Calicut. We were very new to this, didn't even understand what exactly is needed. You need commentators, you need graphic guys, you need to be a producer, and you need to have a director, and a lot more components into the game. Slowly understood that particular thing. Then we did a very good project in Kerala for the Santosh Trophy. Which was in Malappuram. We stayed for almost like 20 days over there. Again, very new 5 cam setup. But the best part, the finals, which was between Kerala and West Bengal. Okay, we had like 1 lakh view on YouTube, 1 lakh on Facebook, and that was a time at 8 o'clock when this IPL is also going on at that point of time. This was a great experience. So slowly understood, okay, this is something is a need for everyone. Every association would need it. Previously, since our product or service was only on performance analysis, our stakeholders were typically teams, clubs, and coaches. Now, when we started doing this particular activity, we started interacting with the association and to understand what exactly they need and everything. So now, thankfully, at least we are able to do for a lot of football games. Then the other thing is Reliance came up, RFYL. So I think they have a youth system. They did that to school and colleges, and that's something close to 330 odd games in 21 cities. Obviously, we didn't know how to execute. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. You figure it out on the way, and we're able to go and execute it. So we did like five different venues at the same time, all being streamed, and that's something as kudos to my team also in terms of the way they were able to cater that particular tournament as well. So now we have understood, okay, and in terms of what is in better, we're not like the ones where we can do an IPL or an ISL thing. We're not getting into that, but we want to bring a lot of content to the fan. That's our motto. And while you can bring the content, it also helps you to collect data points, scout players, more content will also start creating over there. Okay. And then because we come from a data analytics company, we said, what is that we can put out on the on the broadcast, like a real time data points or insights for the fans, which you might also seen in ISL footages also. And that we start implementing. Hey, why don't we do that for a local association? Talk about who those players are, or maybe give them, the last time they have won against with what margins are. So we start bringing fan stories out there. So we're trying to integrate more of data in a real time broadcast also. So it's been a great journey because we can see the connect between a broadcast and analysis, because you need a video content to create analysis for that. And also the broadcast itself has been a need for everyone in order to identify talent, showcase the content. So that's something which we're coming in, and I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities out there, and it's quite a big market. And in terms of universities, schools, associations, or even as you and then multiple sports you can actually do upon that. So broadcast has been a great journey. It takes a lot of effort on the field, a lot of things, a lot of moving parts has to work together. Okay, the internet, power supply, the association guys, camera has to work on time, graphics, commentators, and everything. I mean, so that is something which you have to make sure that everything goes well in order to make sure the stream is live.
Finally, coming to the last two questions, I'll club them together. One is, how has the response to the courses been? And how do you kind of, is there a team that sits down and says, this is the curriculum? And, I have seen some of the experts, like, you have Pradeep on board and everything. But how has the response been to these courses? And secondly, what can we expect more in the coming years from Sports KPI?
Yeah, so from sports education point of view, so just to give you some details behind, so this is something which I would say which made us survive during COVID. There was a tough time for any sports companies because there was nothing sports being played. One is that what we do, content also was there because some games are being played before. But what we did during COVID was that, hey, we have information, we have some knowledge of working there. A lot of people wants to become a sports analyst or maybe a football analyst or kabaddi analyst, and no one knows how to go behind this particular thing. And let's create that knowledge and communicate that particular information. So we start doing that, and with our own ways of putting a curriculum, doing sessions over the weekends or maybe on the evenings, and everyone wanted to get into that. So likewise, we did multiple sessions. We built a small community of people who have done this courses. We gave their own internship for them, and a lot of people who did our course are now with as analysts for different clubs out there. I'm very happy to say that, okay, at least we were able to cater to that market needs as well. Now when that happened, and once the COVID got reduced and market opened up, we started looking at expanding ourselves from broadcasting for analysis or data and those kind of format. And now we kept on getting a lot of requests. Hey, Naveen, when is the next course coming up? Are you still doing sports analytics? Is it going to be offline or online? Previously it was just online in COVID. Now people want an offline kind of a course, and we kept on getting that calls and information. I felt, hey, there is something a need for it. Then also I figured out that what is the value of that certificate if you can create that, right? If a sports KPI affiliating that particular certificate, it's great. But however, if it comes from an university or with an association or something, so we spend some time in order to tie up with some university out there, so that actually the certificate has got a good value out there when you go into the market. And maybe in India you need that, right? That we did. So we again relaunching a lot of courses now. Maybe you'll start hearing in next couple of weeks. And it's not only designated towards only an analytics as a subjects. We're looking at sports in general. Okay, I'm looking at some of the areas like sports broadcasting. How do I get into that? If I want to become a good commentator, what sports commentary all is about. So how can I become a sports commentator and then get him a job out there? Looking at sports retail maybe. So there are multiple aspects of the curriculum which we have actually or maybe courses we have figured it out, and based on the needs of the market, based on what exactly has to be required, we'll start bringing upon. And one good thing what we have done is we have approached to get into to be certified by or affiliated by a university, and also we have actually onboarded some of the people from an academic background who have run courses for so many years. They know what credits are, what has to be given this thing, because we bring in the industry understanding, but they understand how the academic course has to be run in that particular mode. So we are trying to see how that can be done in that particular way.
Well, since you mentioned all those aspects, I hope podcast also becomes one of the topics as well, where you can cater to the needs. But I think overall, what you guys have been doing from the start until now, it's been a lot of learning for you guys as when I see it from outside. And and whatever you've learned, you've not just want to stack it up and saying this is for me, but I want to share this out there. So I think that's a commendable thing where a lot of things, yes, you see the demand, but you're also catering to the needs of that. So Naveen, thank you so much for this time, for taking out time and doing this. I think this was really fun to have, and also to see that I was a couple of episodes initially you've done with many other publications as well. I was just taking a look at it, and I'm like, I was thinking, am I too late to do this? It's all been done. Will I be repeating my questions? But when I looked at the things that you've done since then, I think this was a great time to do it. Also, focus on the other aspects that you're looking at as well. So, thank you so much once again, and best wishes. And hopefully, we can speak sometime, down the years as well about it. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Siju. I think it's great. I think the way you are doing Humans of Indian Football, great stuff. I've been hearing most of your work with a lot of other experts you've been talking to. I mean, I can see this is where I think the best part of this is like a small community of people who are sports enthusiasts who wants to do something for the. That's where I came in. And I'm like, what can I do for the sports industry, or how can I enter to that market? So everyone's pitching in. Thanks for coming all the way and then doing this particular work. It is good that I'm able to share some of the work we have been doing across. And sports is the only thing that's binding us, in terms of what we have been doing. That's the only thing which is making us to take this forward for a longer period of time and sustain this for a longer period of time. And I'm so fortunate enough to having a conversation with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for the kind words. And I must tell the listeners that you make sure you listen to our episodes, our podcasts, and especially this one. We've been, I think both my guest and myself have painstakingly taken this. If I had to give you a behind the scenes of the things that we had to do, but hopefully when you listen to this, you are not, thinking about all the disturbances, but you're enjoying this episode and also following up Naveen and Sports KPI. And if you're someone, thinking of analysis and performance and all of those things, you know where to, and want to learn, you know where to hit. Naveen is available on LinkedIn as well. So, he's just a DM away. So thank you once again, Naveen, and thanks to all the lovely listeners. We are a podcast available on all the leading audio platforms. So do follow and subscribe wherever you like to listen to them. Thank you so much. This is a Total Indian Football Show. Probably some more episodes from the Bangalore city. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and thank you once again.